Did you know that INFJ females, despite their quiet nature, are some of the most misunderstood people on the planet? You can't really put them in a box, and that's exactly what makes them so captivating and so terrifying to those who don't understand them. All right, let's talk about the INFJ female, someone who's fiercely independent, self-sufficient, and doesn't give a damn about following the crowd. INFJ females don't follow trends. They make their own rules. But here's the kicker. Because of this, people often make some huge mistakes around them. And trust me, if you're not careful, you could quickly become one of those people. So let's break down these mistakes. Let's talk about the 8 terrifying things all INFJ females do that people just can't handle. You ready? People love to label others, and with INFJ females, that's where the problem begins. They don't fit neatly into any category. The truth is, INFJ females don't need approval, they don't need a crowd, and they sure as hell don't need anyone telling them how to behave. And that's what makes them so powerful and misunderstood. 1. They set boundaries that can't be crossed. First up, boundaries. INFJ females have no problem setting boundaries, and when they do, you better respect them. They're not going to tolerate people pushing them around or demanding their time. If you're one of those people who thinks you can bend an INFJ to your will, think again. They'll walk away faster than you can say, control. And honestly, it's terrifying to some. INFJ females are known for being fiercely independent, and one of the strongest traits that set them apart from others is their ability to set boundaries. And let me tell you, when an INFJ female sets a boundary, there's no negotiating it. Boundaries are sacred to her, and crossing them is something she will never tolerate, whether it's in relationships, friendships, or even in the workplace. If you try to push past her limits, you're making a big mistake. These boundaries aren't just for show, they are a part of who she is and how she maintains her peace of mind. She understands the value of her time, her energy, and her personal space, and she expects you to respect that. An INFJ female doesn't just ask for boundaries to be respected, she requires it. And if you don't respect them, you will quickly find out that you're no longer in her life. She won't waste time explaining herself over and over again to someone who doesn't get the message. If you're constantly testing her patience, pushing her into uncomfortable situations, or demanding her time when she's made it clear she's unavailable, you're going to feel the consequences. She won't give you a second chance to learn from your mistakes. Once an INFJ female sets a boundary, it's set in stone, and she expects it to be honored without question. If you try to manipulate her into changing her mind, you'll only push her further away. Unlike others who might bend or compromise in order to keep the peace, an INFJ female won't back down. Her boundaries are not negotiable, and that's something you have to accept if you want to be in her life. It's part of her strength, and it's what allows her to keep control over her environment and her emotions. Now, if you're someone who thinks you can somehow change her mind or manipulate her into lowering her standards, think again. INFJ females are not people pleasers. They're not here to make everyone else comfortable. Their primary focus is on their own well-being, and if that means walking away from someone who doesn't respect their boundaries, then so be it. She will let go of toxic people without hesitation. To her, peace of mind is more important than maintaining a relationship or keeping up appearances. And that's a scary thought for people who are used to controlling others or expecting people to bend to their will. You can't break her, you can't change her, and most importantly, you can't make her do anything she doesn't want to do. This kind of independence is something people find intimidating. They try to push her, make her feel guilty, or manipulate her with guilt trips, but an INFJ female has learned not to fall for these tactics. She's been through it all before and knows exactly what to look for. Once someone violates her boundaries, it's game over, she's done. And honestly, it's terrifying to people who are used to getting their way. They might expect her to cave in, to compromise, to be more flexible, but that's simply not who she is. She will walk away faster than you can say, control, and when she does, she will never look back. This fear of being left behind or shut out is what makes dealing with an INFJ female's boundaries so challenging for some. They don't just lose her, they lose the chance to ever have her in their life again. So remember this, respect the boundaries of an INFJ female or risk losing her completely. 2. They don't feel the need to explain themselves. You'll never catch an INFJ female over-explaining her thoughts, feelings, or decisions. She does what she wants and she doesn't owe anyone an explanation. Most people can't handle this. They need the answers, the whys, but INFJ females Nope, they're perfectly content with silence. It's one of the reasons why they're often labeled as cold or aloof. INFJ females are known for their independence, and one of the most distinctive aspects of their personality is their complete lack of need to explain themselves to others. Unlike most people who feel the urge to justify their actions, thoughts, or feelings, INFJ females don't waste time doing that. When an INFJ female makes a decision, she doesn't owe anyone an explanation. If she chooses to take a certain path, she doesn't feel the need to break it down for anyone to understand. Her choices are hers alone, and that's all there is to it. This often throws people off because in a world where everyone is constantly explaining themselves, questioning motives, and seeking validation, an INFJ female does none of that. She's confident enough to make decisions without needing others to approve or even understand them. And honestly, this can be intimidating to those around her. Most people rely on others' opinions and feedback to confirm that they're on the right track. They want to know why someone behaves a certain way or why they've made a specific choice, but INFJ females, they couldn't care less. It's not that they're hiding anything or trying to be secretive, it's just that they don't feel the need to validate their existence to anyone. INFJ females don't feel like they owe anyone an explanation for simply being themselves. This is often misunderstood by people who are used to the idea of constant reassurance or clarification. In fact, this trait is one of the main reasons why INFJ females are often labeled as cold or aloof. People who can't get the answers they expect from her might assume that she's distant or uncaring, when in reality she's just not concerned with explaining herself. This doesn't mean she's unkind or lacks empathy, far from it. It just means she's not about to give her energy to unnecessary conversations or justifications. She values her peace of mind too much to indulge in things that don't add value to her life. For INFJ females, silence is a powerful tool. She doesn't need to fill every moment with words or explain why she does what she does. This is a quality that many people find hard to understand, especially those who are used to constant communication and transparency. But for an INFJ female, silence is golden. It's a sign of strength, of knowing exactly what she wants, and of being comfortable with her own choices. She's secure in herself and doesn't feel the need to seek validation from anyone. This level of confidence is rare, and for those who thrive on knowing why or who are always looking for the reasoning behind every action, it's a difficult concept to grasp. But the truth is, INFJ females simply don't care what others think about their decisions. They trust themselves enough to know that they don't need to explain their reasoning to anyone. It's a trait that makes them incredibly powerful and self-assured, but also one that can make others feel uncomfortable or even insecure. In a world that constantly pressures us to explain our every move, INFJ females stand out by just doing what they want without giving a second thought to what others think. And honestly, that's what makes them so intimidating and so captivating. They've mastered the art of living for themselves and don't waste their time justifying it too. Anyone? How many of you can relate to this? Ever had to deal with someone who just couldn't handle your boundaries or didn't understand your need for privacy? Drop a comment and let me know. 3. They don't need validation from anyone. INFJ females have zero interest in external validation. Their worth is internal. They don't need anyone to tell them they're doing great because they already know. This makes them an enigma to most people who are used to seeking approval. It's terrifying to those who rely on others' opinions to define their self-worth. INFJ females are individuals who are completely indifferent to the opinions of others. They have zero interest in seeking external validation, and that's one of the most powerful things about them. Their sense of self-worth comes from within, not from what anyone else thinks or says. This might sound simple, but it's actually a rare and incredibly freeing mindset to have. While most people need constant reassurance, praise, or recognition from others to feel good about themselves, INFJ females don't need any of that. When an INFJ female takes on a task, makes a decision, or sets a goal, she doesn't wait around for anyone to approve of her efforts. She doesn't need anyone to tell her that she's doing well, because she already knows. She measures her success by her own standards and not by the expectations of others. This makes her extremely self-sufficient and confident, qualities that many people find intimidating. People who rely on external feedback to define their self-worth simply can't comprehend how an INFJ female operates. They are often baffled by her ability to go about her life without constantly looking for approval or validation from others. This makes INFJ females seem like an enigma to those around them. It's hard for others to understand how someone can be so self-assured without constantly seeking praise or affirmation. For most, the idea of not needing others to tell you that you're doing great is foreign. They rely on compliments, social media likes, and words of encouragement to feel good about themselves, but INFJ females? They've learned to find all the validation they need within themselves. This can be terrifying for those who are used to seeking approval. When they encounter someone who doesn't care about their opinions or comments, they feel powerless. The fact that INFJ females don't need anyone's approval forces others to confront their own insecurities and fears. It's a reminder that their worth isn't defined by the praise they receive or the approval they seek from others. This sense of independence can be uncomfortable for people who base their self-worth on external factors. For an INFJ female, validation is an internal process. She doesn't wait for someone to notice her accomplishments or commend her efforts. She simply does what she needs to do without concern for whether anyone else notices or approves. She knows her value, and she doesn't need others to confirm it. This kind of self-assurance is rare in a world that thrives on comparison and external recognition. People who rely on others to boost their self-esteem often feel threatened by the INFJ female's ability to stand alone. The fact that she doesn't need them to feel validated makes them question their own reliance on external validation. To an INFJ female, her worth is not up for negotiation. It doesn't fluctuate based on how others perceive her or what others say about her. She is confident in her own skin, and that confidence is unwavering. She knows that her true value comes from within, and that's something that can't be taken away or diminished by anyone else's opinions. And that's what makes her so powerful and so terrifying to those who live and die by external validation. 4. They'll walk away from relationships without hesitation when an INFJ female feels disrespected or betrayed. She doesn't waste time trying to fix things. She simply walk away, no guilt, no hesitation. She never tolerates toxic behavior. And that can be frightening to people who thought they had a solid bond. If you cross the line, there's no second chance. When it comes to relationships, INFJ females are incredibly straightforward. They don't waste time or energy on situations that no longer serve them, and if they feel disrespected or betrayed, they'll walk away without a second thought. There's no hesitation, no emotional back and forth about whether it's worth trying to repair the relationship. Once they sense that someone has crossed the line or doesn't respect their boundaries, they're done. The concept of loyalty and mutual respect is something that's deeply ingrained in an INFJ female, and if that's violated, there's no room for negotiation. She doesn't cling to relationships out of fear of being alone or out of some sense of obligation to keep things intact for the sake of appearances. To her, peace of mind and personal integrity come first. This behavior can be extremely frightening to those around her, especially to people who are used to manipulating or controlling others. For many people, relationships, whether friendships or romantic, are filled with the expectation of working through issues and giving second chances. But an INFJ female doesn't operate like that. She knows her worth and understands that she deserves to be treated with respect. If that's not happening, there's no reason for her to stay invested in the relationship. When you cross her, there's no warning or drawn-out drama. She won't beg for an explanation, and she won't try to fix things if they've gone south. She simply walk away. That's a hard pill to swallow for people who expect loyalty at all costs or those who thrive on emotional manipulation. For an INFJ female, emotional self-sufficiency is a core value. She doesn't need to hold on to people who drain her or bring negative energy into her life. She understands that walking away is often the best option for maintaining her own well-being. The idea of cutting ties without looking back is something that others find difficult to comprehend. For many, walking away from a relationship means guilt, regret, or the hope of reconciliation. But for an INFJ female, once the line has been crossed, she's at peace with her decision to move on. There's no second guessing. There's no emotional attachment that keeps her stuck in a toxic dynamic. This makes her a powerful figure, but it also makes her intimidating. People who think they have a solid connection with her will quickly realize that if they don't treat her with the respect she deserves, they will be left behind, no questions asked. And that's where the fear comes from. For those who rely on others' emotions or attachment to maintain relationships, the INFJ females' ability to walk away without hesitation is something they can't handle. They'll try to apologize, make amends, or beg for another chance, but it's too late. Once she's decided that a relationship is no longer worth her time or energy, she's gone, and there's no coming back. It's one of the most empowering and terrifying things about her. She won't tolerate toxic behavior from anyone, and if you cross the line, you'll find out just how quickly she can cut you out of her life. She values her peace too much to let anyone disrupt it, and if that means walking away from a relationship, so be it. Ever had a friendship or relationship where you just knew it was time to walk away? Tell me your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear it. 5. They rarely get attached. INFJ females are the lone wolves of the female personality types. Emotional attachment doesn't come easily to them because they've learned to be self-reliant. They don't get easily swayed by others' emotions, and that can be downright intimidating to people looking for that deep, codependent connection. INFJ females are often referred to as the lone wolves of the female personality types, and this is something that stands out in their relationships. Emotional attachment just doesn't come easily to them. Unlike many others who form deep, emotional bonds quickly, INFJ females take their time to connect, if they connect at all. They've learned to rely on themselves, and because of this self-reliance, they don't crave or seek out emotional dependence from others. They don't need someone else to feel complete. Their independence is not something they wear as a badge of honor, it's simply who they are. They've created their own emotional resilience over time, often through experiences where they had no one else to turn to but themselves. This ability to stand alone is powerful but can be confusing or intimidating to others, especially to people who are looking for deep emotional attachment. Many people, particularly those who seek codependent relationships, might see this as a cold or detached characteristic, but it's far from that. It's just that emotional dependency isn't a priority for INFJ females. They don't get easily swayed by others' feelings or emotions. If you're the type of person who wears your heart on your sleeve or needs constant emotional reassurance, you might find it hard to connect with an INFJ female. She won't chase after you, beg for your attention, or let her emotions dictate her behavior. While this may come across as aloof or distant to others, it's actually a sign of strength. She knows that her worth doesn't lie in her emotional attachments, and that's what makes her so resilient. This trait can be especially intimidating to those who rely on others for emotional stability or validation. For someone looking for that deep, all-consuming connection, the INFJ female's ability to maintain her independence can feel like a brick wall. She values her space and freedom more than she values being emotionally tied to someone. It's not that she doesn't care about others, but her emotional needs are entirely different from what many people expect. She might form close relationships, but they will always be on her terms. And that means there's no pressure to form emotional ties out of obligation. INFJ females don't enter relationships because they need someone. They enter them because they want to. If a relationship doesn't align with her needs or disrupts her peace of mind, she won't hesitate to let go. This ability to detach emotionally from situations that don't serve her can make her seem distant, but really, it's her way of protecting her energy. While others might find themselves drawn into emotional roller coasters, INFJ females are the calm in the storm. They don't get caught up in the drama or emotional fluctuations of those around them. This ability to remain unaffected can be intimidating because, in a world full of people seeking validation and emotional attachment, an INFJ female's self-sufficiency stands out as both empowering and isolating. She's not afraid to be alone. And that's something people who seek constant emotional connection can't quite understand. For INFJ females, being emotionally unattached is not about being cold. It's about being in control of their emotions and not letting anyone take that power away from them. 6. They are incredibly self-aware. An INFJ female knows herself better than anyone. She's mastered self-reflection and self-growth. And when you know yourself that well, you're not afraid to make tough decisions. It's terrifying for those who aren't. As self-aware, because it means she can spot a fake from miles away, INFJ females are incredibly self-aware, and this is one of their most powerful traits. They know themselves better than anyone else ever could. This isn't just about knowing their likes, dislikes, or preferences. This goes deeper. INFJ females have spent years honing the ability to reflect on their actions, thoughts, and emotions. They are masters of self-reflection, and they know exactly who they are, what they stand for, and what their boundaries are. This deep level of self-awareness means that they are not easily influenced by others. They don't get caught up in the opinions or judgments of people around them because they have a clear understanding of their own values and principles. They've taken the time to develop themselves, grow emotionally, and become confident in their own skin. When you know yourself that well, making tough decisions becomes second nature. An INFJ female doesn't hesitate when it comes to making choices that align with her values. If something feels off, she doesn't need anyone else to tell her what to do. She trusts herself completely to make the right call, and this unwavering trust in her own judgment can be intimidating to others. For people who haven't spent the same amount of time reflecting on their own lives, seeing someone so confident and self-assured can be downright unsettling. It highlights their own lack of self-awareness, which can trigger feelings of insecurity. INFJ females, on the other hand, have no problem making hard choices, whether it's walking away from toxic relationships or choosing the path that's best for their own growth. They don't need outside validation or confirmation because they are already certain of what they want and need. This level of self-awareness also makes them highly intuitive. They can read situations and people with an uncanny precision. Because they know themselves so well, they can spot when someone is being disingenuous or trying to manipulate them from a mile away. They've learned to trust their gut instincts, and when something doesn't sit right, they don't ignore it. Instead, they act on it immediately. This ability to read people and situations accurately can be terrifying to those who aren't as self-aware. When someone tries to put on a facade or hide their true intentions, an INFJ female will see right through it. She doesn't waste time with people who aren't genuine, and she doesn't feel the need to entertain anyone who isn't being authentic. This can make her seem distant or unapproachable, but in reality, it's just a protective mechanism. INFJ females value honesty and transparency, and if someone can't offer that, they don't make space for them in their lives. Knowing herself so well also means she's constantly growing. INFJ females are never stagnant, they're always working on self-improvement. They don't shy away from introspection, and they're not afraid to face their flaws head-on. They use every experience, good or bad, as an opportunity to learn and evolve. This constant growth makes them even more formidable. So when you come across an INFJ female, don't expect her to follow the crowd or to bend to the will of others. She's already so self-aware that she's able to make decisions with confidence and clarity, and that's what makes her an incredible force. Her ability to know herself deeply, trust her instincts, and never back down from her own truth. 7. They will shut you down with silence if you try to manipulate, control, or disrespect an INFJ female. She won't argue. Instead, she goes silent. She won't feed your drama. She won't play the game. The silence is her power. It's chilling to those who thrive on conflict, but it's exactly what keeps an INFJ female in control. INFJ females have mastered the art of silence, and it's one of their most powerful tools. When someone tries to manipulate, control, or disrespect them, they don't waste time engaging in petty arguments or feeding into drama. Instead, they go completely silent. It's not because they don't have a response, it's because they know that silence speaks louder than words ever could. This silence is a deliberate choice, one that reflects their emotional intelligence and self-control. When an INFJ female goes silent, it's a way of taking back her power. She won't play into the drama that others try to create, and she certainly won't give anyone the satisfaction of a reaction. This is terrifying for those who thrive on conflict or who are used to stirring up emotional responses in others. People who rely on argument or manipulation to control situations are completely disarmed by an INFJ female's silence. She won't argue her point, try to justify her actions, or beg for validation. Instead, she simply withdraws her energy from the situation, and this can be unsettling to those around her. It's not just that she's avoiding confrontation. It's that she's choosing to remove herself from the chaos entirely. In a world where everyone seems to want to be heard, where arguments escalate and emotions are constantly on display, the quiet power of an INFJ female can be downright chilling. It's a reminder that she doesn't need to engage to be in control. She's not interested in playing games or getting tangled in conflict. She knows that her peace of mind is far more valuable than any argument, and she will protect it at all costs. The silence serves as a boundary. It's a way of saying, I won't tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or drama without uttering a single word. And for those who are used to getting their way by pushing buttons or provoking others, it's a cold wake-up call. They don't know how to handle someone who won't feed into their manipulations, and they certainly don't know how to deal with someone who can maintain control of the situation without saying a word. INFJ females are not confrontational by nature, but they won't hesitate to use silence as a tool of strength. It's how they maintain their emotional equilibrium and keep toxic people at bay. This silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of self-assurance. An INFJ female knows that engaging with negative energy is a waste of time. She won't let anyone drag her into their emotional turmoil. Instead, she keeps her distance, using silence as a shield that protects her peace. For those who thrive on stirring the pot, an INFJ female's ability to shut them down with nothing but silence is a terrifying thing. It forces them to confront their own behavior without the distraction of a back-and-forth argument. And ultimately, it gives the INFJ female the upper hand in any situation. Her silence is her power, and she wields it effortlessly. 8. They won't let anyone change them. INFJ females are unapologetically themselves. They've spent years developing their own identity and sense of self, and they aren't willing to let anyone change that. Unlike many people who may try to adjust their behavior or beliefs to fit into societal norms or to please others, INFJ females remain unwavering in their authenticity. They know who they are, and they embrace it fully. If you try to change them, you'll quickly realize that it's impossible. INFJ females have an inner strength that prevents them from being easily swayed by the opinions or pressures of others. They won't conform to fit into someone else's idea of what they should be, whether it's their appearance, their values, their career, or their lifestyle choices. INFJ females stand firm in what works for them. This is incredibly intimidating for those who are used to manipulating or persuading others to change. They can't handle someone who refuses to bend to their will. For an INFJ female, the concept of change is something that comes from within, not from external influence. If she decides she wants to evolve or grow, it will be on her terms, in her own time, and for her own reasons. No one can force an INFJ female to be something she's not, and that's a powerful thing. This trait can cause tension in relationships, especially when others try to impose their expectations on her. INFJ females don't need anyone's approval to live their lives, and this independence can be difficult for people to accept. They want to see her adapt or conform to what they believe is best, but she simply won't. She knows that staying true to herself is the only way to live authentically. Trying to change her will only result in her pulling away, and it's a hard lesson for anyone who doesn't respect her autonomy. INFJ females know that change is a personal journey, and they're the only ones who can decide when and how to embark on it. They won't be coerced into becoming something they're not, and that unwavering self-respect is what makes them so magnetic. If you try to change an INFJ female, don't be surprised if she simply walks away. She has no time for relationships or situations that don't accept her as she is. Her refusal to change for anyone is a testament to her strength, confidence, and deep sense of self-awareness. If you can't accept her for who she is, you don't belong in her life. And that's a lesson that everyone eventually learns when dealing with an INFJ female. The biggest mistake you can make when dealing with an INFJ female is trying to change her. This is the one thing that can completely alter the dynamic between you and her, and it's the most dangerous mistake you can make. INFJ females will never, ever conform to your expectations. They are incredibly self-aware, and they know exactly who they are. They don't need anyone to mold them into something they're not, and they certainly don't need someone trying to change them to fit a mold that works for you. When you attempt to manipulate or control an INFJ female, you're not just crossing a boundary, you're trying to redefine her. And that's a mistake you'll regret, because the minute someone tries to change her, the game is over. INFJ females are built on a foundation of independence, and they have no tolerance for anyone who tries to alter that. When they feel that their essence is being manipulated or undermined, they'll see right through it. They won't argue or fight, they'll just walk away. And once they do, there's no turning back. It's chilling to think about, but it's true. Trying to change an INFJ female only leads to her withdrawal. She doesn't need to explain herself, and she doesn't need to justify her decision to walk away. Once the line is crossed, she's gone. The most terrifying part of this is that you can't control them. You can't make an INFJ female into something she's not, And that is exactly what makes them so strong. Their strength comes from their refusal to be shaped or manipulated by others. They understand the power of being true to themselves, and they won't let anyone compromise that. If you think you can change them to fit your ideals or expectations, you'll quickly find out that you're wrong. INFJ females will always be who they are, and trying to force them into a mold is a futile effort. Now, let's recap the 8 things that all INFJ females do that can totally terrify people. They set unbreakable boundaries. They don't feel the need to explain themselves. They don't need validation from anyone. They'll walk away from toxic relationships without hesitation. They rarely get emotionally attached. They are incredibly self-aware. They shut down negativity with silence. And most terrifying of all, they won't let anyone change them. These traits are what make INFJ females so unique and so powerful. If you don't understand them, they can be intimidating, but if you do, you'll realize that these traits are what make them incredibly strong and authentic. INFJ females don't settle for anything less than real. And that's why they stand out in a world full of people who conform to expectations and norms. Understanding these traits is the key to respecting INFJ females and building meaningful relationships with them. They are not cold or detached, as some might assume. They are simply not willing to settle for anything less than who they truly are. So, if you're an INFJ female, or if you've ever interacted with one, drop a comment below and share your experience. How have these traits played out in your life? I'd love to know. And don't forget to check out my next video on female personality types. We'll dive deeper into the dynamics of the INFJ female and explore other types as well. Stay tuned, and remember, being yourself is always enough.